What's in a name? Everything. The power of a name has long been immortalized in prose, poetry, and history. It is your face to the world, your ambassador of quality that reflects your ideals and aspirations. Thompson's, a name, a family, a tradition of excellence. So it is with Thompson's Toyota, where our professional and courteous staff are eager to help you drive home your dream vehicle from the largest selection of new and used Toyota cars and trucks at the best prices. And if your vehicle needs service, our Toyota factory-trained and certified service technicians have the skill and expertise to do the job right and do it right the first time. Thompson's Toyota, where you'll always be treated like family.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
Approaching lunar sunrise, and for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
In 1955, Neil Armstrong became a research pilot at NASA's Flight Research Center in Edwards, California. Here, he flew almost all of the Century series of jet fighters, the F-100, the F-101, the F-102, the F-104, and the F-105. He also piloted the F-5D, the KC-135, the B-47, and his first flight was in the P-51. During this time, he served as a launch pilot on the extensively modified B-29 that was used to air launch the X-1E. He also flew the X-5, the first aircraft capable of sweeping its wings in flight, a technique in use on the F-14 and B-1 today. While at the Flight Research Center, Neil made several flights in the X-1B, a rocket-powered airplane that eventually reached speeds of up to 1,600 miles per hour. And in 1958, he was named as one of the original 7 pilots for the X-15 program, which was later acclaimed as the most successful rocket-powered research aircraft. Specializing in stability and control, Neil worked closely with engineers in developing an adaptive flight control system that would eventually allow the X-15 to fly near orbital altitudes. He piloted the first 4 flights on this system in the number 3 X-15 and later received the AIAA's prestigious Octave Chanute Award for this effort. Although originally developed in the 1950s to increase man's knowledge of hypersonic aeronautics, manned spaceflight was the immediate beneficiary of the X-15 research program. The program dramatically demonstrated the capability of the human pilot for employing a fantastic variety of acquired skills, sensing, judging, and coping with the unexpected. The X-15 was air-launched from as far as 300 miles from its destination. The rocket engine would only burn for 90 seconds until its fuel was exhausted, and the aircraft would continue to climb ballistically to altitudes in excess of 300,000 feet and speeds of over 6 times the speed of sound. Yet, barring any unforeseen mechanical problems, the pilots were almost always able to maneuver their hypersonic glider to a landing within 1,000 feet of their intended mark. In the early 1960s, Neil became involved with the development and testing of a new concept that was being considered for use as a possible method of recovering both manned and unmanned spacecraft. Although the concept showed promise, subsequent testing revealed operational problems that made the paraglider more suitable to hang gliders than spacecraft recovery. It was during this same time that Neil, flying a prototype jet fighter, developed a technique for the abort rescue of a new manned spacecraft under consideration. It was called the X-20 Dinosaur, and it was built for the U.S. Air Force. It would have been launched into space using a Titan III booster. Once in space, the X-20 would orbit the Earth using a principle called dynamic soaring, originally developed by the Germans during World War II. Once the speed decreased, the spacecraft would re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and land like a simple glider. In all, Neil logged 2,600 flight hours in over 900 flights at Edwards, and all before becoming the most famous astronaut of all time.
This was one of the most exciting places in the world at that time. The flight test world was filled with excitement. Dozens and dozens of new concepts and configurations and tests, something new to talk about every day. And I believe that whenever I have the privilege of visiting here again and years ahead and ask someone, what's new? There'll always be something.
That's 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Shadow. more forward, drift into the right a little. 30 seconds. Forward, drift. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're going to be busy for a minute.
Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon. On this July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful, Neil. It has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here. Beautiful view. Isn't that something? Magnificent sight out here. Magnificent desolation. Tranquility Base, Houston. Guidance recommendation is pings, and you're cleared for takeoff. Roger, understand. We're number one on the runway. 7, 6, 5, engine arm ascent. Beautiful. Very smooth. Very quiet ride. Apollo 11, this is Hornet, over. Apollo 1, this is Apollo 11, reading you loud and clear. Our position 1330.
Apollo 11 was about exploration, about taking risks for great rewards in science and engineering, about setting an ambitious goal before the world, and then finding the political will and the national means to achieve it. Indelibly impressed upon our nation's memory, the voyage of Apollo still seems incredible. We are inspired by the magnitude and teaming efforts of people from all walks of life, from industries big and small, who worked in tandem to attain a long-term goal of magnificent achievement.
It was the ultimate peaceful competition. USA versus USSR. I'll not assert that it was a diversion which prevented a war. Nonetheless, it was a diversion. It was intense, and it did allow to both sides to take the high road with the objectives of science and learning and exploration. Eventually, it provided a mechanism for engendering cooperation between former adversaries. In that sense, among others, it was an exceptional national investment for both sides.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. Now, May, when much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes. Oh, is this a neat way to travel? Isn't it great? Dum-de-dum-dum-dum. Dum-de-dum-dum-dum.
Houston, while you're looking that up, you might recognize what I have in my hand as the handle for the contingency sample return. It just so happens to have a genuine 6-iron on the bottom of it. In my left hand, I have a little white pellet that's familiar to millions of Americans. Drop it down. Unfortunately, the suit is so stiff I can't do it with 2 hands, but I'm going to try a little sand trap shot here. They got more dirt than ball this time. Some more dirt than ball. Here we go again.
That looked like a slice to me, Al.
There we go. Ready to die. One more. Miles and miles and miles.
Apollo 17 built upon all the other missions scientifically. We had a lunar rover. We were able to cover more ground than most of the other missions. We stayed there a little bit longer. We went to a more challenging, unique area in the mountains to learn something about the history and the origin of the moon itself. The lunar rover was a tremendous asset. One of the things that we knew was going to give us a problem was the lunar dust, the soil, very fine, almost like graphite. And you would throw it up when you drive the rover, it would throw up like a rooster tail. That was bad, and I was working around that rover, had a habit of putting my rock hammer in a pocket, leaned over and ripped one of the fenders off. But we had to fix it, because otherwise the rooster tail of dust would really be bad. And the bottom line came up with a fix where we took some geology maps and taped them together in a spacecraft with, of all things, duct tape, and then took a couple clamps from lights we had in the lunar module and clamped them to what was left of the fender, and it stopped the dust. It did the job. It was a little human intervention on the positive side after we had a little bit of a problem.
Breakfast. Medical examination. Neil Armstrong, Commander, Apollo 11.
With Earth.
Houston, Apollo 11, star 40 has just disappeared now in the sextant. Could the trunnion angle 47 something be a little high? Stand by. Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, we'd like you to press on to star. Stage 5 clear. Roger. And we're getting a picture on the TV. Okay. You got a good picture, huh? There's a great deal of contrast in it, and currently it's upside down on our monitor, but we can make out a fair amount of detail. Okay, Can you verify the position the opening I ought to have on the camera? Stand by.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Neil, we can see you coming. Okay, I just checked getting back up to that first step. That isn't collapsed too far, but it's adequate to get back up.
Roger, we copy.
It's a pretty good little jump.
Buzz, this is Houston. F2, 1/160th second for shadow photography on the sequence camera.
Okay. At the foot of the ladder, the lamb footbeds are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches, although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Ground mass is very fine. Yeah, I'm going to step off the lamb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. As the surface is fine and powdery, I can pick it up loosely with my toe. It does adhere in fine layers, like powdered charcoal, to the sole and sides of my boot. I only go in a small fraction of an inch, maybe an eighth of an inch, but I can see the footprints of my boots and the treads and the fine sandy particles.
Neil, this is Houston. We're copying.
There seems to be no difficulty in moving around as we suspected. It's even perhaps easier than the simulations of 16G that we performed in various simulations on the ground. Absolutely no trouble to walk around. The descent engine did not leave a crater of any size. It has about 1 foot clearance on the ground. We're essentially on a very level place here. I can see some evidence of rays emanating from the descent engine, but very insignificant amount. For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this lamb. There's 2 hemispheres, one showing each of the 2 hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. It came in peace for all mankind." It has the crew members' signatures and the signature of the President of the United States. darn clear. How's it going?
Roger, the EVA is progressing beautifully. I believe they're setting up the flag now.
Great.
I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
That's all right. I don't mind a bit. How is the quality of the TV?
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.
Oh, geez, that's great. Is the lighting halfway decent?
Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface.
Up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface. Beautiful, just beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first person to land a spacecraft upon the moon and the first person to set foot upon its surface, Mr. Neil Armstrong.
Thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Reed, Mr. McConnell, Ms. Pelosi, members, distinguished guests. We gather in this remarkable monument to American history. This room connecting the houses of Congress, this room where ideological differences fade in the presence of the overpowering force of pride in what we do and what Americans have achieved. It's a privilege to be in this rotunda. High above us, just below the windows, stretches a frieze with 19 panels depicting important events in American history. The most recent of them, number 19, just above me here, depicts the first successful flight of a man in a powered aircraft by the brothers Wright 108 years ago. The depiction, in addition to the craft and the responsible individuals, includes an American bald eagle carrying an olive branch. Wilbur and Orville Wright were the 45th recipients of the Congressional Gold Medal and the first for achievements in the world of flight. Subsequently, Congressional Gold Medals have been presented 9 times for aviation and rocketry achievements. Today, for the first time, they are being given for achievements in spaceflight. In an appropriate coincidence, Apollo 11's mission emblem and crew patch also featured an American bald eagle carrying an olive branch. The Apollo 11 crew is honored to receive the Congressional Gold Medal and accept, on behalf of our fellow Apollo teammates, all those who played a role in expanding the human presence outward from Earth, and all those who played a role in expanding human knowledge of the solar system and beyond. We thank the Congress very much.
Watch now as the X-15 is launched from the B-52. There's the drop. Before it returns to Earth again, the X-15 may fly some 60 miles straight up at nearly 4,000 miles per hour, more than twice the speed of a bullet. The pilot will be subjected to G-forces and weightlessness, experiences familiar to astronauts. The X-15 is the only craft in the world capable of pilot-controlled flight both in atmosphere and space. Its more than 120 missions have increased our knowledge of pilot performance and flight safety and provided problem answers in developing supersonic aircraft. The experimental X-15 research being done today will play an important part in our air and space travel of the future.